Good evening. I am Crcle Wyllys. I am the host of podcastforfreedom.com, and I'm very happy to be here tonight. We have about 1 minute to starting time at 7 o'clock, and I need to go get my water. I'll be right back. Okay, that's better. So I thought with a minute or so to go, I would go ahead and give you a little bit of background, my background. 2016, I started with the Republican Party up in the north of Michigan, helping them stump for Trump. And we devised a plan to swing our county. It worked. And our county, along with another county in the 2016 election, swung the entire state for Trump. Now, that's where I learned one person can make a difference. I make a difference and you make a difference with whatever we do to help the patriots and the people of the state of Michigan. Then after that, they elected me their chair. I was the chair of the Republican Party for about a year, started a youth group called the TARS, the Teenage Republicans, the first one of its kind in the state of Michigan. And we did a whole bunch of wonderful things. I think they recruited 28 people in that group. I was their advisor. And after that, I went on to run for the U.S. Senate seat in Michigan against Stabenow and James. Then I ran hard and strong in the 2020 election, and I was with the U.S. Taxpayers Party, also known as the Constitution Party, on the ballot. And that was absolutely wonderful. And I'll get into that a little more later. But it is now 7:01, and I'm going to start our Crcle of Wyllys podcast on the podcastforfreedom.com network, where the demand for freedom meets education and action on your journey to freedom. Please go to http://podcastforfreedom.com. All right, and I'd like to spend just a few minutes talking about our beautiful website. You can go to podcastforfreedom.com. There is tons of stuff on this. We've got the Crcle of Wyllys live stream, which is our newest and latest podcast. Then we have two other wonderful casters on the same channel. We have our own Katie Crcle of Michigan, and Katie Crcle is a lot more deadly than that other Crcle in DC somewhere that isn't in the news anymore and doesn't talk to anybody and nobody knows what's going on. But our Katie Crcle of Michigan, she is the podcaster that runs and starts the Who Knew podcast. And Katie Crcle is a constitutional historian, but with a twist. Katie knows how to connect the dots. She shares her research and everything she finds. And she is an excellent teacher who is teaching people our true history of not only our country, but of our state. And so if you want a very wonderful place to start with the Katie Crcle Who Knew podcast. And remember this, and this is from Hosea 4:6. People are destroyed for lack of knowledge. That's one of the reasons why we all work together to start this podcast, so that you would have a place to go for basic knowledge. Then we also have Mary Quite Contrary with the Rub podcast. And Mary Quite Contrary runs what we call a silver lining podcast. Mary talks about some tough stuff like Caca 19. That's my term for it, Caca 19, because you can't say that word or you get booted off of YouTube. So it's Caca 19. And she talks about tough subjects, but she always brings out the silver lining, the good thing inside of the hard thing. So it's a wonderful way. And she's got quite a few podcasts up. I also have several podcasts up from teaching Robert's Rules of Order for those who are assembling and running meetings. to teaching common law, to how to peaceably assemble, as stated in our Bill of Rights, and other important classes for children, families, utilizing our educational classes. Please utilize our educational classes to understand what is really going on in our world, because it's a tough thing today, and things are moving very quickly now. So use our podcastforfreedom.com as a resource to help you with your educational needs. Okay, talking about the Crcle of Wyllys. The Crcle of Wyllys, actually, before we go on, I want to talk a little bit more about the Podcast for Freedom website. So we've got our podcast, and then we've got a thing called Subscribe, where it will take you to our Patreon channel, and you can become a subscriber for $5, $10, or $20 a month and get, depending on what level you pick, you can get a little bit, a medium amount, or all of it, depending on what level you pick. But we sincerely appreciate your support, because a lot of time and effort goes into making these podcasts, doing the research, and putting it in a format that people can understand. So it's one of these things where if you help us just even a little bit financially, it gives us a green flag to say, hey, people really like this, and so we'll keep doing it. We also have a faith page where we have the 1599 Geneva Patriot Bible there, and we're doing a chain Bible reading, and it's for people who are hearing impaired. Then we have a thing called Listen, which takes you to Patreon. We have some Michigan videos. Dr. David Martin is there with his excellent information. And then I did put all the Antrim County legal videos up, but they've deleted them all. So there's no more of that. But that's the podcastforfreedom.com network. So if you get a chance, check that out. Next, the Crcle of Wyllys was created to give you a weekly update of current events in Michigan and worldwide from my view and guest views. Send me any questions you have to gwashington1636@gmail.com. Again, gwashington1636@gmail.com, and I will answer them on the air. So feel free to do that. So the Crcle of Wyllys will also be tracking the demand for the forensic paper ballot audit in Michigan. And for this, you can go to WyllysForCongress.com, WyllysForCongress.com. Go to the page called Sign the Petition. There's some history on there about what happened. And Valerie L. Wyllys, me, I am a damaged plaintiff because I was a candidate in the race for 2020. And I watched right online while my vote count went down over and over and over again. I have over 300 pages of proof, an excellent affidavit, and we're getting petitions signed right now to raise the money. The Maricopa audit cost $23 million, so we know Michigan's going to be quite expensive as well. And we really need your help. What we're asking for when you sign the petition is a $3 donation, or whatever you can. If you want to give more, that's your choice. But at least give $3, because then we know how many petitions we need signed in order to get our petition paid for. And that's the whole point. By signing the petition, and because I'm running it under my U.S. Senate campaign, every dollar is accounted for. I have to report everything to the FEC, and every dollar is tracked. Whereas if you sign anybody else's petition and you give them money, there's no tracking. But in my case, there is tracking, because I'm required by law to report every single dollar that you give me. And I'm happy to do that too, because I'm a responsible person. So please go to WyllysForCongress.com, donate $3, sign the petition, and then a lot of effort is going into this demand for the forensic paper ballot audit, and more people are helping all the time to lift this load. It starts with signing the petition. Do that first. It's greatly appreciated. Then share the link everywhere on your social media channels. Spread the word, spread the love, spread the responsibility too. We need many signatures. We also have the Wyllys for Congress Committee also has many county ambassador positions available, and these slots are filling fast. This is a paid position. Call us or email us on the Wyllys for Congress website. Get hooked up and say, hey, I want to be a county ambassador. How do I do it and what do I have to do? We'll be happy to talk to you. We are also passing out doorknobs in every county. So if you'd like to do your street, again, contact the Wyllys for Congress Committee campaign website. Say, hey, I'd like to do Lark Street. I need 20 bags. We'll send them to you. And we will only be able to get all this work done if you help us. Do your part, raise yourself up, and be part of the solution. Thank you. So now I'm going to go ahead and get into tonight's topics. In episode 1 and 2 of the Crcle of Wyllys, we dove deeply into the entire Crcle 19 idea. And Dr. David E. Martin, PhD, stated it the best. We were locked down, masked, tested, and we had our jobs taken away, and it was done in anticipation of a pandemic. One did not occur. Check out the death indexes for Michigan and the USA. I will attach them below this video. But one statistic stands out as of right now, and this is my question to you. How many people have died and are dying from the Crcle 19 shot? This needs to be investigated. All right, so now what we're going to do, we're going to get into some health news, because for the last 2 episodes on the Crcle of Wyllys, we have been deep diving into the Crcle 19, the entire whole scenario from one end to the other. And we have found some very interesting things. And I'd like to show you something. This is the health code of Michigan. It's about 4 inches thick. It's 720 pages. I'm reading it, okay? And I found some very curious things in here that I'd like to share with everyone in Michigan, and not only everyone in Michigan, but everyone in the world. This is the Public Act of 1978, and I would like to read to you the section called definitions. And one of the definitions they had is the definition of a person. Quote, a person means an individual, a partnership, a cooperative, an association, a private corporation, a personal representative, a receiver, a trustee, assignee, or other legal entity. Now, does that sound like you? Doesn't sound like me. I'm a living soul. I'm a free woman on the land. But a person, according to when you were born, so I'm going to have to backtrack a little bit. Okay, when you were born, there were 2 babies born that day. One baby was a living soul, a live baby on the land, and the other one, as Charlie Freak from Freak Sense TV puts it, was a corpsoration. And why do I say it like that? If you look on your driver's license, you have a name, and it's in all capitals. All capitals is an indicator of a corporation. So when you were born, they created a birth certificate, all capital letters, and a driver's license later when you drove, all capital letters. You became a person because they said so. They turned you into a corporation. So if you're a living soul on the land, you are not a corporation. You are not a person. You are a living soul. You are a free man, free woman, free child on the land. Now, how can I say this? Because there's a law, a maxim in the law that states anything done in deceit is null and void. I'll say it again. There's a maxim of law, and in it, it states that any action taken against you and done in deceit is null and void. They did not get our signature or authorization to become a corporation, did they? I didn't sign anything as a brand new baby infant. Okay. But this is done in deceit. We are not persons. So the first point I have to make, this entire thing does not apply to you. And that's one of the avenues we have to fight against it in these lockdowns and continuing harassment of the people. All right, there's another thing I would like to read to you out of this book. And this is on page 3, top of page 3. This code shall be liberally construed for the protection of the health, safety, and welfare of the people of this state. This means that there's no box around their powers, okay? Which is horrific. It scares me. All right, so it shall be liberally construed for the protection of the health. That's another caveat that we can discuss, and I'm not going to discuss it tonight, but I am evaluating and reading the entire 720 pages. Another thing you might think is interesting, 333.1115, controlling provisions. A state statute, a rule of the department, or an applicable health code department regulation shall control over a less stringent or inconsistent provision enacted by a local government entity for the protection of public health. The health department regulations and rules are above codes, statutes, and acts. Did you know that? One more thing I'd like to share with you is 333.2208, and I bet you didn't know this. Public Health Advisory Council. Now, in Michigan, there's a 16-member board, okay? And the 16-member board makes up the Public Health Advisory Council, all right? The Advisory Council shall represent consumers and providers of healthcare representatives of the population. 16 people in the state of Michigan make all the rules for you. Who are these people? Do they represent you? Are they representing you now? So we know there's a board in Michigan that puts all this together and that makes all the rules for you and me. And that's just a tidbit of the health department rules and regulations. But that will be an ongoing part of this broadcast, because as I find curious things or new things, I want you to be aware of them. So it's like a public service to the people of the state of Michigan. All right, and I'd also like to put a shout out for Michigan for Vaccine Choice. I had an email sent to me by a person that I know, and in Lansing, now this was August 19th, HB 4471 is a bill that would provide vaccine exemptions for employees in the workplace for those that have philosophical, religious, or medical objection to vaccination for Crcle flu or Tdap. Adult vaccine mandates, particularly within the workplace, threaten the very principles of freedom, informed consent, and the right to bodily autonomy. Many employees, particularly within the healthcare sector, and even those that have no patient contact, are being forced to receive the investigational Crcle vaccine or lose their job, often positions they have been in for decades. So, and the committee on this is run by Representative Beth Griffin. She's the chair. Let me get her phone number. It's 517-373-0839. Again, 517-373-0839. Please reach out to Representative Beth Griffin. Tell her you say no, or whatever your opinion is, and let her know that we want choice. We have the right in our Bill of Rights to choose whether or not we want to be vaccinated by untested, and unregulated vaccines. Also, too, I've been working on a project to help parents. And one of the things we found that was good was in the Detroit Free Press early in January of this year. So it was a while back. But the headline reads, House GOP plan threatens to withhold school funds unless Whitmer gives up pandemic power. Now, we all know what happened in Michigan because Governor Whitmer, after the first 30 days, was supposed to get House and Senate approval to continue her emergency powers. She did not. It continued anyway. So then the House and Senate went to the Michigan Supreme Court, and the Michigan Supreme Court removed her powers. Well, when they remove her powers, she somehow transferred or gave the nod or the wink or the arrow or whatever it was that caused the health department to stand up, where she was now defunct with her emergency powers. But in truth, the health department, just to put it in simple terms, there's no emergency. They have to show us where the emergency is. The death rate is way down. So there's a little bit of a problem there. So I understand some of my parents that I'm talking to are having issues with the health department mandating masks in school now, again, and in anticipation of a spike or something else. Well, they can't do that because there's nothing happening right now. So the one thing parents can do is go visit your health department. Your school board won't answer you when you ask them a question. So it's basically like talking to a wall. But you can demand in writing a written response stating, I want to know where your emergency powers comes from. That is an excellent question you can ask them. And also, where's the emergency? Show me the emergency. All right, so we have a couple other topics we're going to talk about tonight. I think it was in our first episode, first or second Crcle of Wyllys, we got a hold of a court case out of Canada that said COVID does not exist in Alberta, Canada. And I'm still tracking, waiting for a transcript in that court case to share with you. But I ran across another case now here in the States, in America, and this is the headline, and then I'll explain it because I had to do some real hard digging on this one to get to the bottom of it. Okay. Breaking news, and this is, let's see, who is this saying this? News, Health, and Wellness. The author is Joshua Flint. It's July 23rd, 2021, breaking. Breaking news. The Supreme Court in the U.S. has ruled that the COVID pathogen is not a vaccine, is unsafe, and must be avoided at all costs. Big Pharma and Anthony Fauci have lost a lawsuit filed by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and a group of scientists. I'm going to read a little bit of the article, and then I'm going to clear it up. Because if this is true, this is great news. Breaking news. Supreme Court has canceled universal vaccinations in the United States. The Supreme Court has canceled universal vaccinations. Bill Gates, U.S. Chief Infectious Disease Specialist Fauci, and Big Pharma have lost a lawsuit in the U.S. Supreme Court, failing to prove that all of their vaccines over the past 32 years have been safe for the health of citizens. The lawsuit was filed by a group of scientists led by Senator Robert F. Kennedy Jr. All right, so I said, wow, if this were true, this would solve all of our problems because then everything is stopped. Well, I did some digging and found out that that title of that article was misleading. And let me explain to you why. Now, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. did file a lawsuit, and I'll read the article with all the information in just a moment. But it's on behalf of ICANN versus Department of Health and Human Services. So a lawsuit was filed, but not for the reason that article states. So, and this is very important because this helps clarify exactly what is going on and required reporting. Okay, September 14th, 2018. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services has admitted that in direct violation of federal law, It failed to provide a single vaccine safety report to Congress for 30 years, according to Informed Consent Action Network. That's ICANN. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. represented ICANN and founder Del Bigtree in a successful lawsuit against HHS. This acknowledgement comes after 8 months of stonewalling from HHS, following a Freedom of Information Act request from the nonprofit ICANN and its founder, Del Bigtree. ICANN sought copies of the reports HHS was required to submit to Congress every 2 years starting in 1988, detailing improvements it made to vaccine safety. ICANN was represented by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. ICANN sued HHS in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York, demanding that the reports be shared with the public. HHS eventually conceded that those reports do not exist, and the court entered an order confirming this concession. The 1986 National Childhood Vaccination Injury Act granted economic immunity to pharmaceutical companies for vaccine injuries, and hence eviscerated their economic incentive for them to take responsibility for vaccine safety, said Bigtree. Market forces driving vaccine safety were simply eliminated. Congress therefore charged the Secretary of HHS with the explicit responsibility to assure vaccine safety. Biannual reports of HHS's progress in improving vaccine safety were to be submitted to Congress, yet as ICANN has now proven, these reports were never created. Quote, it is apparent that HHS doesn't have a clue as to the actual safety profile of the now 39 doses and growing of vaccines given by 1 year of age, including in utero, end quote, said Bigtree. In 1986, a 1-year-old child received 11 doses. HHS spends billions annually promoting vaccines and generates a steady stream of reports promoting vaccines, Bigtree says. Yet when, despite federal law, HHS cannot bother to complete the simple task of preparing a biannual report on vaccine safety, there's little hope HHS is tackling the much harder job of improving vaccine safety. The 1986 Act shifted financial liability for vaccine injuries to the U.S. government, which has since 1986 paid out over $3.9 billion for serious vaccine injuries. Bigtree hosts the weekly live online news program, The High Wire. It is an Emmy award-winning producer of the CBS medical talk show, The Doctors. He is producer of the groundbreaking documentary, Vaxxed, From Cover-Up to Catastrophe. All right, so that is the truth. So they won a big victory because Department of Health and Human Services has not been made accountable to Congress or anyone, especially not to parents, about what is going on with the safety of the vaccinations that they're selling and making money off of. All right, then I have another case I'm going to go over next week. Supreme Court decides myriad gene patents case holds isolated human genes may not be patented. And this gets into the DNA, mRNA, BRCAs, patents and things that these pharmaceutical companies and certain people in our government and certain people you know of whose names I'm not going to mention here, but they tried to patent certain genetic things that they're trying to put in our bodies, which is quite scary. So, okay, now down to the most important, very important thing that I have to report on this week is I have been following very closely the Antrim County demand for an audit by Bill Bailey and his attorney. What is his attorney's name? I just went blank on it. All right. Matt DePerno. Okay, so tonight we're going to get into that because it directly today I got, wow, like boom, hit in the middle of the forehead with a huge article just before I went on the air here about something that happened with Sidney Powell and some other lawyers and how it all is going to work out. So I'm going to give you a lot of information here tonight on the audit lawsuit in Antrim County. I sat for many weeks watching the online court of Bill Bailey, the plaintiff, and his attorney, alleged lawyer Matt DePerno, because I was, in the beginning and through the process, I was quite confused as to what was going on. So I'm going to review a few things that confused me. Bill Bailey's race was a county race. It was in Antrim County only, that his seat that he was running for was in. So it was not an 83 county race. His race was not. And so in a lawsuit, and I, like everyone my age, we've been to court a few times. We understand how the court works. Your beginning motion has to have everything in it that you want, because you can't keep amending your motion and getting more and more stuff added. When you file your first motion in suit, it has to just have everything in it, unless along the way things are discovered that you can add. That's normally the procedure in the court, in the court procedure and process. Okay, so Bill Bailey asked for a audit. In the motion, his lawyer, Matt DePerno, asked for a paper tape audit. And that's what they've got. But Matt DePerno along the way tried to change the motion to an 83 county audit. He tried to add all kinds of stuff later, which the judge threw out. Now, he did not ask for a paper ballot audit of even Bill Bailey's county. Why not? That would have been right and proper. I mean, because we all know by now that a paper tape audit is just a regurgitation of another tape against a tape. It does not go into the paper ballots and recounts them. Okay, so Bill Bailey got what his lawyer, Matt DePerno, asked for, which was a paper tape audit. Now, did Matt DePerno do everything he should have for his client? I'll leave that up to you to judge. But I think it's quite funny when a lawyer claims himself to be a constitutionalist and holds a bar card at the same time. Are you going to be faithful to the people and stand up for the people, or are you going to be faithful to the bar? You can't be both. And we need to stop believing things when people say, I'm a constitutionalist. Look at their behavior. Look at what they've done for the people, okay? Let's wake up and stop being idiots and believing everything everybody says. All right. A bar card carrying attorney takes his first oath when they get their license to practice. They pass their test, they pass the bar, they raise their hand and take their oath. And guess who they make their oath to? The state. They take their first oath, faith and fidelity to the state of Michigan. That's where their fidelity and their faith and their trust lies. That's who they will protect. Okay? Forever. When you're a bar attorney. They represent people, corporations, to make money. Do you understand what I'm saying? I think you do. I've explained it pretty good. It's pretty straightforward. So these bar attorneys, bar card holding attorneys, took an oath to the corporation of the state of Michigan. And that's who they defend. Now, I've heard some yammerings about Matt DePerno is going to demand a forensic paper ballot audit, and he's raising money. First of all, if you give him any money, he's going to put it right in his pocket because he's running for Attorney General now. Okay, there's no accountability there. Any dollar you give to Wyllys, Wyllys has to claim it on her FEC quarterly returns. And I really want a paper ballot audit, and the money is going to be saved. So you can throw your money away to someone who does not have any tracking involved in the forensic paper ballot audit, or you can hand $3 to Wyllys and have it tracked. It's just a choice. This is America. You can do what you choose. but one's going to produce results and the other is not. And I'll tell you why at the end. Now today, I got this kick butt article, just like pow, it just came up on my phone and I clicked on it and this is what I found. Sidney Powell sanctioned by judge over false election claims. August 25th, 2021. That's 5 days old. And this is by Eric Larson. I had to copy and paste it. It was with Bloomberg because I couldn't get an actual copy of it. So I had to cut and paste it. But I'm going to read this article to you because it's very interesting. And it gives you tons of information about what judges are doing now to lawyers. Okay, attorneys are ordered to pay legal fees to attend training courses. And Detroit judge refers Powell and Linwood for possible disbarment. Former Trump campaign attorney Sidney Powell and other lawyers for the Republican Party were ordered to pay legal fees and take additional training for filing a lawsuit to overturn the 2020 election results that a Michigan judge ruled was a historic and profound abuse of judicial process, end quote. U.S. District Judge Linda V. Parker in Detroit late Wednesday issued a 110-page ruling that rejected dozens of speculative and fact-deficient affidavits the lawyers had submitted as evidence of a conspiracy to steal the election from former President Donald Trump. She accused the lawyers of trying to deceive the court and the American people and said, quote, sanctions are required to deter the filing of future frivolous lawsuits designed primarily to spread the narrative that our election processes are rigged and our democratic institutions cannot be trusted, end quote. Powell and other lawyers filed lawsuits in several states seeking to overturn the election results of November 2020, alleging widespread voter fraud that resulted in Joe Biden becoming president. Governor Gretchen Whitmer and the city of Detroit had asked the court to issue sanctions and start disciplinary proceedings against the lawyers, saying they improperly used the court as a weapon to undermine faith in the election results. Now, Governor Whitmer and anyone else saying anything to a judge is improper. That's coercion. The judge can make up their own mind. The judge has to follow law and precedents. The judge cannot be influenced by third parties unless we live in a lawless state. You make up your mind on that one. But the fact that it appears in an article is quite interesting. And oh, by the way, has anyone seen Governor Gretchen Whitmer in person since August 6th? If you have, please contact me at gwashington1636@gmail.com because no one has seen her since then. Continuing. In addition to ordering the lawyers to pay the city and state's legal fees for the case, well, they lost the case, so of course they have to pay the legal fees. The judge referred the matter for investigation by licensing authorities in states where the lawyers practice for possible suspension or disbarment. She ordered the attorneys to take at least 12 hours of additional legal training, including at least 6 hours focused on election law within 6 months. Quote, we disagree with the decision and will appeal, end quote. Powell's attorney, Howard Kleinhendler, said in an email. In a July hearing over the sanctions matter, pro-Trump trial lawyer Linwood suggested Powell had attached his name to the complaint without asking him. Wood didn't immediately respond to requests for comment. The judge ruling blasted the lawyers for brazenly claiming in court that they would file the same complaints again if given the chance. Now, isn't this what Matt DePerno is talking about filing? Isn't this about the 700 or more affidavits that people collected on witnesses saying they saw things at the vote? Is that what we're talking about? I'll get back to this topic at the end. They make this assertion even after witnessing the events of January 6th and the dangers posed by narratives like this one counsel crafted here, wrote Parker, a Barack Obama appointee. Quote, an attorney who willingly continues to assert claims doomed to fail and which have incited violence before must be deemed to be acting with an improper motive, end quote. Parker also said she was troubled that Powell is profiting from frivolous election fraud suits. Parker also said she was troubled that Powell is profiting from frivolous election fraud suits through the solicitation of donations on the website of a company run by the attorney. Isn't that what Matt DePerno is doing? He's asking for money. What is concerning is that the sanctions imposed here will not deter counsel from pursuing future baseless lawsuits because these sanctions will be paid with donor funds rather than counsel's. Well, that's the point. The judge wrote in a footnote, in this court's view, that should be reviewed by any disciplinary authority reviewing counsel's behavior, which means any lawyer that brings forth a frivolous lawsuit on the auditing the vote of Michigan's 2020 election will be reviewed quite closely. Powell has previously said that she had a duty to the country to bring the lawsuit, comparing it to the landmark U.S. Supreme Court case Brown v. Board of Education, which ended racial segregation in schools in 1954. Trump's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, was temporarily barred from practicing law in Washington in July, while New York considers whether to permanently revoke his law license. A state appeals court in Manhattan suspended Giuliani's license in June, saying the former New York City mayor put the public at risk by spreading lies about the 2020 presidential election. Now, just as a matter of common sense or common law or whatever you want, people seeing things are called witnesses. And the witness may fill out an affidavit, but they're just a witness. They're not a damaged party. And that's my point. Wyllys is a damaged party. I am a plaintiff. I have damages. I have a claim. My lawsuit will go through. Others will not. I have evidence of losing votes. And this is my ending point I'm going to end with tonight. All candidates in Michigan that were damaged in the Michigan 2020 election need to contact WyllysForCongress@gmail.com. Wyllys, F-O-R, Congress@gmail.com. Why? You might have a claim. And I'll leave it right there. So tonight on the Crcle of Wyllys, I hope that you have a wonderful evening. The weather's still beautiful in Michigan and many other places. I have friends all over this great nation and in the world. I wish you all well. And I look forward to seeing you on episode 4, which will be next week on Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Michigan time, 7 p.m. On the Crcle of Wyllys. And may God bless all of you and your families. Peace.